Welcome to This Explainer. Look, if you're an HR or safety professional, you already know that keeping your company compliant is, well, it's easily one of the most stressful, high-stakes parts of your job. Between shifting federal regulations and that incredibly complex patchwork of state laws, managing workplace policies, it can literally feel like a full-time job all on its own. Just think about it. A drug testing protocol that flies perfectly fine in Texas might result in a hefty fine or a completely voided policy over in California. Keeping track of all that manually is just a staggering burden. So, today we're looking at a system designed to solve exactly that headache, the Atlas Policy Suite. We're going to explore how this really sophisticated rule-driven engine is completely transforming how complex compliance documents are built, moving us way past outdated manual methods into a world of, well, absolute automation.
Okay, let's dive right into this. If you manage a fleet or handle workplace safety, I want you to ask yourself right now, how do you currently build a completely compliant Department of Transportation policy without missing a single state-specific rule? The reality is, managing these nuances manually isn't just tedious, it is an absolute nightmare. Visualize the anxiety for a second. Let's say you miss one tiny clause buried on page 42 regarding a specific state's employee notification period. That single missed clause, it can expose your company to massive liability, trigger a failed DOT audit, or even open the door to a devastating lawsuit if a terminated employee decides to challenge your procedures. The stakes literally could not be higher. But what if your software could carry that immense burden of accuracy for you?
Section 1. Beyond static templates. To really solve this massive problem, we need a major shift in how we think about document generation. We have to completely move away from old-school word processing. For decades, HR teams have relied on static templates. You know the exact drill. You open one massive monolithic Word document and you just start manually deleting or highlighting sections that don't apply. You're constantly relying on the dreaded Control F to find and replace company names. And honestly, we've all heard the horror stories, right? An HR manager accidentally misses a spot and hands a legally binding document to a new hire that literally has a totally different company's name printed right in the middle of it. Static templates are just incredibly inflexible. The absolute second a state law changes or an employee has a unique DOT mode, that whole template completely breaks down. The Atlas Policy Suite entirely abandons this dangerous approach for a dynamic engine. It's a rule-driven system that dynamically assembles highly tailored content based on your real specific data. So instead of forcing you to edit a giant error-prone document, the system builds the exact perfectly compliant document you need entirely from scratch.
Section 2. The modular puzzle concept.
And this brilliantly illustrates exactly how it does this by visualizing the data-driven architecture running under the hood. Basically, the engine separates the document into 4 distinct layers, which allows it to build these complex files without a single manual copy and paste. First up, there's the templated architecture. This is just the high-level blueprint. It's the structural skeleton of the policy that simply dictates the order of information. Second, we have the modular components. These are highly granular sections and clauses. So instead of a massive page of text, think of a modular component as just a single isolated paragraph regarding, say, a specific state's drug testing threshold. Third is the business logic. This acts as the brains of the entire operation, deciding exactly which of those modules to grab. And finally, token replacement, where your specific data is seamlessly injected right into the text. It helps to think of this entire process like assembling a giant custom puzzle. Instead of starting with one huge bloated template that you have to somehow carve down, the content is broken down into tiny granular sections and clauses. The engine essentially acts as the master puzzle solver. It picks only the absolutely correct pieces based on your specific company's situation and then perfectly fits them together. Think about the incredible benefit here for an HR user. You no longer have to manually maintain 50 different versions of the exact same document just to cover 50 different states. No way. The engine does all that heavy lifting for you on the fly. But you might be wondering, how does it actually know which puzzle pieces to pick? Well, let's take a look.
Section 3. The logic engine.
The logic engine is absolutely the heart of this compliance system. It evaluates these incredibly complex logical trees in just a fraction of a second to determine precisely which sections and clauses must be included in your final document. And it does this by looking at specific evaluation parameters. Things like your industry, the specific state regulations you operate under, your DOT mode, and your specific responses to upfront discovery questions. Let's look at a really practical example of this logic tree at work.
If the system sees you're generating a policy for a commercial truck driver operating under the FMCSA, the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, the logic engine immediately and automatically excludes all the FAA modules. It guarantees that your truck driver isn't accidentally handed a commercial airline pilot's truck testing policy. It takes all of this context, instantly cross-references it, and ensures total error-free compliance. Now, for safety and HR professionals, this right here might honestly be the most reassuring feature of the whole suite: the validation gate. Think of it as your ultimate safety net. Before the engine does any heavy lifting to build the document, it rigorously checks if all required variables have been provided. If crucial data is missing, generation halts entirely. It physically will not let you build a flawed policy. So instead of leaving you guessing, you see a clear red error message returning a list of actionable missing variables. The system tells you exactly what you forgot. Maybe you missed a zip code or a facility address, completely eliminating all the guesswork and preventing incomplete, non-compliant policies from ever seeing the light of day.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is what happens next. Once the logic engine has picked the right clauses, it needs to personalize them. And this brings us to the token replacement engine. The system scans the selected clauses for specific placeholders. These are formatted as variable names inside curly brackets, and it automatically injects your actual user data. Let me give you a quick verbal example to make it click. It takes a generic blank space in the text, something like bracket bracket company name bracket bracket, and instantly injects Acme Logistics right in its place. It's literally injecting your company's specific DNA into the final document, flawlessly replacing generic placeholders with your actual company name, your specific state, or your precise testing thresholds. And you never even have to touch a keyboard. So we deeply understand the technical architecture. Let's look at how this backend technology translates into the everyday application from the user's perspective.
Section 4. The end-to-end workflow. Let's move to and see how this builds into an incredibly simple 5-step user experience. Step 1 is template discovery, where you simply select what kind of policy you need from Essential Hub. Step 2 is the discovery phase, where you just answer a few guided questions. Step 3 is rule evaluation. That's where the engine does all the heavy lifting and logic processing in the background. Step 4 is finalization, where you get to review your beautifully assembled document. And Step 5 is audit and distribution, where the document is finalized, locked, and permanently saved. To give you a closer look at Step 2, the discovery phase, this is where the front-end interface collects the exact data the logic engine needs. It presents a simple, beautifully designed workflow asking plain English questions. Things like, are you located in Wisconsin? Or do you have over 50 employees? You just answer these straightforward yes or no style questions. Think about the massive value proposition here. As an HR professional, you don't need to memorize the complex legal codes for the state of Wisconsin. You just need to know if you have employees working there. The system takes your plain English answers and instantly translates them into the complex legal and compliance logic required to assemble an airtight policy. Section 5. Built for compliance audits.
Finally, let's pivot to what happens after the policy is generated. Because, as we know, in HR and safety, a policy isn't just a piece of paper. It is a critical shield against liability. First up, the system provides strict visibility and access control. It fundamentally respects data ownership. Standard users can only view the policies they personally generated. Meanwhile, administrators get a global view of all generated documents across the organization. Now, why does this matter so much in the real world? Well, because compliance documents often contain highly sensitive operational parameters or really strict substance testing protocols. Those files absolutely shouldn't be viewable or editable by unauthorized staff members, and this system ensures they are kept strictly locked down.
So the crucial point for your liability shield is this: immutability. Once a policy is finalized, it's saved as an immutable record in the database, literally flagged with "is immutable true." This technical term simply means that once a policy is generated, it absolutely cannot be altered after the fact by anyone. Just lean into the drama of that for a second. Paint a picture of a disgruntled employee challenging a positive drug test in a really tense courtroom. The immense relief of having an absolutely unalterable, time-stamped policy document to confidently hand to the judge, that is invaluable. You have absolute proof that the document was exactly as it was the moment it was generated.
But the system goes even one step further to protect you with a discovery transcript. The specific answers you provided back in Step 2, the actual context of why you made certain choices, are permanently stored right alongside the final policy. Imagine a DOT auditor sitting across your desk asking, why exactly did you test for this specific substance? Instead of nervously shrugging and saying, I think the old template said to, you can pull up the exact time-stamped transcript. You can show them precisely how the logic engine reasoned through your state laws to include that specific clause. It provides complete, undeniable auditability.
Which leaves us with a final, vital thought to reflect on today. If a DOT auditor walked into your office tomorrow morning, could you definitively prove that your compliance documents haven't been manually altered since the day they were generated? The Atlas Policy Suite ensures you never, ever have to guess. It completely replaces the anxiety and liability of manual Word templates with the unshakable confidence of an automated, logic-driven, and perfectly auditable engine. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I really hope this gives you a powerful new perspective on automating your